Hello, Steve Kaufman here again, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Will John, someone that I spoke to about a year ago, you may remember, and we're going to talk about a variety of things having to do with language and maybe sports. But first, remember, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, click on the bell for notifications, and if you follow me on a podcast service, please leave a comment. I do appreciate it. Will, you were, when we last spoke, you were a soccer player with an interest in languages. Maybe you can update us on what you've been doing.
Yeah. So I'm still a soccer player with a massive interest in languages. But this time around, we've started a project called Goluremi Languages, where essentially we just walk around the street and kind of surprise people with our language ability. And the idea behind the channel is to display everything that we've learned and also to talk about the methods that we use in order to actually make this happen. And we share a lot of similarities. You and I have both been influenced quite heavily. As a matter of fact, it was actually pretty much well over a year that we talked. You introduced the name Stephen Krashen to me. I had already been using comprehensible input to some degree without even knowing who he was. And since then, I've spoken to him and all this stuff. So we have a lot of similarities in our methods. But that's what's going on. So now we've got this Goluremi Languages YouTube channel and TikTok that's kind of taken off, and it's given us a chance to step outside of the world of football or soccer.
Briefly, you played soccer, professional soccer, in a number of countries. Just update my listeners.
Yeah. So I'm from Kansas City in the U.S. and I started my career playing in the MLS. So I played for the Chicago Fire, and then I played 2 years in my hometown, Sporting Kansas City, before moving to Europe, playing in the Danish Super League. So I played there, and I played in Serbia. I played back in Finland for a couple of years, and Croatia, where I play now. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
You know, I can't resist in speaking to an American about soccer. Yeah. I can't resist reminding you that Canada beat the U.S. in soccer. Yes, sorry. No. I just wanted to say that.
You won't remember. You won't remember in our first interview. I'm almost certain that we talked about soccer. We talked about Canada, and I said Canada was on the up and up, and you were like, "Oh, that's surprising." And here we have proof of this now in this 2-0 win. So Canada's a dark horse
without their star, without their star player.
Exactly.
It's a team.
It is. You guys are coming up.
All right. Anyway, leaving that because I'm sure that the Americans will be back. So we crow while we can crow. But your interest in languages, is this as a result of you traveling and being in? Because the average person from Kansas City, let's say, probably doesn't see a tremendous need for learning language.
Yeah.
So what was it about your background that made you interested?
The traveling is not a part of it. Everyone assumes that because I traveled around, I learned all these languages when I was in the country. Nothing could be further from the truth. Of course, yes, when I played in Croatia and when I played in Denmark, I did learn those languages there. But I've spent 3 or 4 days in Italy and I speak Italian. I learned French before ever living or playing in a French-speaking country. German is the same. The catalyst for my language learning is my mother, who is unfortunately passed away. But she decided at a young age that it would be better for me to come home and not watch, I don't know, Pokemon or whatever it was that I wanted to watch as a kid. And she said, nope, you're watching this. And this was comprehensible input, as it turns out, for kids to learn Spanish as a second language. And so I, without knowing it, by the time I was around somewhere between 10 and 13, had a pretty good grip on Spanish. And that got me to realize that I had learned the language without much effort at all, as you know, from this, the method and the way that, you guys do things over Link. You're not really forcing too much. You don't stress people to speak and do all this. So that was a huge factor. And then I read the book, Count of Monte Cristo, and that basically sent me. Have you read it? Have you read that book by chance?
Yeah, it was a long time ago in English.
Yeah, sure. Well, the character just struck me as a 16-year-old that he had this ability to travel around the world, that he took all this time and he learned these languages while he was in prison and all this stuff. And then he had this ability to just travel and do everything. And I really, it struck me. And that's the real reason why I can do this.
I'd like to get back to the whole subject of motivation because it's such a big part of language learning. But first, I'm curious to know, it's been more than a year since we last spoke. You've now launched your YouTube channel. You've got some videos that have gone viral. Can you update us on what you...
Yeah. So we stopped, and I think it was at the end. It might have even been just off air. And the last, you asked, pratar du svenska? And I said in English, no, because I'd just gotten to Sweden. And so, yeah, I learned Swedish, at a comfortable level now that I can communicate, and that's been great. The motivation, and it's so interesting for all the people out there that are trying to learn. It's regardless of the language, and it's just something that I like to hammer into people who are here that have just started their language journey or are about to. You will be super motivated at the beginning. You will gain quite a bit at the beginning. You will hit a dip. It is guaranteed. You might not hit it in 10 days. You might not hit it in a week, but it will come. You will stall at some point, and you've just got to push through that dip. You might even need to take a break. I'm not saying to quit. If you've lost all passion for it, then it might not have been the best choice. But if you're still interested in it, that dip part right there is the turning point. Because if you can get through the dip and stick to it and keep your passive listening up and a little active listening and a little bit of active speaking, stuff like that, you generally start this exponential jump up if you're following the method correctly. So I would say just to be aware of that, because motivation will wane when you pop into a conversation that you feel like, oh my God, I can't understand anything. What am I doing with my life?
So you're motivated, obviously, to learn languages. You're also motivated to help people learn languages. I can sense your enthusiasm, passion, and so forth. And what are the kinds of activities that you have gotten yourself involved
in language learning? Oh gosh,
language.
Yeah.
You said something about you're on YouTube.
Oh gosh, yeah. So right now we filmed
Goluremi Languages.
Goluremi Languages. Yes, go check it out. So Goluremi is the name of our. Obviously, we have a rather large soccer YouTube channel and soccer company named Goluremi. My middle name is Oluremi, and we just put the word G for goal, the Spanish word goal. So we mashed that together.
Goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we have filmed videos, language videos in, I believe, Sweden, in Croatia. We just did one in New York where we spoke to, we went to Little Italy and just wanted to find out if people there could speak Italian. And that video has been popped all over places, and we've just been asked to be a part of a documentary now from that video and all this stuff. So, we've had some guys, and that's obviously our goal is to reach people like you as well, to kind of give people a good base of language learning, understanding, to tackle it from different ways. I mean, I think one of the things that you see in this is that many of the successful polyglots, like you, they have certain different methods, but they all have a few things that are just, they have to. Luca Lampariello uses this, but Steve also uses this. They might differ on a few little things, but it's just clear that there's a pattern there, and we want to kind of point that out for people. So that's the goal of the channel, and that's what you'll find there. And that's kind of just what we've been up to is speaking to people in the street in these different languages, shocking them, doing some of these Omegle videos that you've seen online where you kind of shock people. Those are always fun. The reaction's great. And then the other goal is to simply educate people on the best methods, because it is truly probably still plural, even though there's a lot of similarities, and making it simple for people to do that. That's it. That's what we're about.
You mentioned the dip. That's interesting, because one of the reasons for that dip is that when we start into a new language, we achieve a fair amount of success initially from knowing nothing about the language, not understanding anything. All of a sudden, we can understand something, we can say something. We're very impressed with ourselves. Yeah. But then the reality is that word frequency declines very, very quickly. So that in the initial few months, we're meeting the same words over and over again. And then suddenly, as we start to hit words that don't appear that often, it's harder and harder to remember them. And that's where it's, I think, so important to get into content of interest. You can actually get to something that you're actually interested in hearing about and reading about, then that sort of the interesting nature of the content will keep you going. Because I have not found, like, I consider it more of a plateau.
Sure, that's a
It's
good.
not like you have a sudden dip and then all of a sudden you take off again. You settle into a sort of a long distance. You start off sprinting,
Yeah.
and pretty soon you realize this is a long distance. It's a 50 kilometer. This is the 90-kilometer Vasaloppet in Sweden.
Yeah.
It's a long road.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with you that the successful language learners, the word polyglot is a bit intimidating. Most English speakers don't even know the word. But successful language learners have many, many things in common. What are some of the main things in common that you have found?
That's a really good question. So what we have found so far, and obviously we haven't made the exhaustive list yet, but what it's clear, a good understanding of why they're starting to learn the language. They chose, even if they want to learn many languages, they generally, the successful ones, and by successful, I mean that a relatively short amount of time is used to learn the language. 1 year, 6 months, something like this, not like 10 years to learn one new language. They choose that language out of a absolute huge desire. They focus then on one language for the most part. Now, it's not that most polyglots do choose, don't study more than one language, but what tends to happen is one becomes more of a focus. One language kind of rules out in the brain, and it seems that they have a main focus. You might end up dreaming in this and doing things like that. The other is the frequency, like we've kind of touched on, but it's every day, regardless of if it's 5 minutes. And people just cannot quite yet understand the importance of this, but the exposure that you have in your mother tongue is enormous. And you got it every day when you were a kid, whether you liked it or not, because you didn't control your environment. And if you're looking to learn another language, you cannot have these massive gaps. That's something that all polyglots do not have in their success. They do not have like a 6 to 7 day, just to stop in the middle of their learning. It's a constant everyday thing. Comprehensible input, as we've kind of spoken about, and for the people that Steve can probably explain it much better than I can. But comprehensible input is the way that I describe it is most polyglots, if they don't know about it early on, they will stumble on and find it. They will stumble their way to it through all the methods, maybe the apps and the extensive grammar research that they make us do in all schools and stuff, which doesn't tend to, have a great success rate. Those are the key factors that is more or less what we've found. Everything else outside of that is a bit supplemental. So being able to focus, being able to concentrate. Obviously, there's things like concentration. I've talked about meditation with some guys and what they do before they study, and that's something that I'm huge into. Deep work, being able to shut off your phone, being able to these sort of things will amplify your ability to learn. And they shouldn't necessarily be taken seriously because the best guys do that. And I think that's something that can't be taken for granted, in the whole journey.
Right. And of course, the trigger is motivation. And the motivation can be, as you say, it can be, focused on one language. But I don't want to discount the people who are just curious about languages and who study a lot of languages. And I mean, the stereotype is that someone from the heartland of North America is not going to be interested in languages. And I can't help but, when we talk about people who dabble in a lot of languages, curious or who were curious about a lot of languages, I can't help but remember Moses McCormick. I don't know if you're familiar with Moses McCormick.
Sorry to interject. And I just want to put this in here because it's actually kind of tragic. I mean, obviously we all know Moses' story, but Moses and I, before obviously Goluremi Language got started just recently, Moses and I had been in exchange. We've been in a constant exchange because he was not too far from me when I was always in the US. And we continually kind of pushed it back. We kept delaying it because it was just like, I come home every 6 months. I come home, I'll be home. We'll be able to do it. And we'll do this cool level up together. You know, these two African-American guys, he speaks a lot of Asian languages. I speak some Eastern European languages, and we'll blow up the internet with this cool thing. And we kept delaying it. And then I woke up one day and he had passed away. And it was just like, wow.
It's extremely tragic. And aside from what impressed me with him was, first of all, he was a very generous person, generous with his time. And he had a very gentle storytelling, casual approach, which I found very effective. But the big thing about him, I think, from the point of view of language learners, is his curiosity. So he wasn't learning a language because he had a girlfriend or get a job or work for a company. He was genuinely curious in languages. And I think successful language learners, they have to have curiosity. If you aren't curious about another language, how it works, another culture, it's difficult to drum up the motivation. Even if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever it is, you have to be curious. And the other thing about him is he came from a background, like it's not like he went to a prep school.
No.
I mean, I gather he grew up what's known in the States as the projects or something. So it's not like a tremendously stimulating environment. And so I don't know what's got him going with, but obviously you can be in any situation if you have that level of curiosity and you are disciplined enough to, commit the time necessary. You can focus on one language, you can focus on a number of languages, but it's got to start with curiosity. So I think that's a big part of it.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, by no means I would want to deter anyone from studying more than one language. I mean, I do that now, especially this. Moses had such a incredible ability to draw on his knowledge and just to kind of get these things to stick for him. He may not have had, an in-depth knowledge of Macedonian, for instance, but he spent enough time in that
and he didn't pretend.
By no means. And it doesn't matter. And I hope that people get that point too.
Right.
That's not the point here.
Yeah.
I've rarely have seen any successful language learner that says that you have to speak perfectly, otherwise don't do it, don't start.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have that issue. They have that block, and it stops people from speaking or from trying and stuff like that. So yeah, no, if your goal is I'm just interested in kind of just connecting with people, because honestly, if you can just learn 2 words in another language and it's a random language and you meet these people and you say the word, it's over. You guys are best friends. If you just spoke a little Swahili to the guy, I'm sure you've had that. So.
Oh yeah. So what I would suggest now, because we're also going to do an interview here for Will's channel, and we're going to leave a link to Will's channel in the description box. And in that interview, Will's going to ask me a bunch of questions. I'm not quite sure what, but one of the things we're going to do is to speak in different languages. So if you want to hear us speak in different languages, I suggest that you mosey on over to Will's channel for the continuation of this discussion. And we'll just end it here. But thank you very much for coming on my channel.
All right. Yeah.
And we'll be following.
Thanks a lot. Good to be back.